Winani, thanks so much for your time. Okay, so before we get to the details, take us through how it is that you compiled the research.
Okay, we partner with our state universities, and what we do is we've got an online questionnaire that we run year on year in order to determine which employers are the most attractive employers to the students.
And in terms of attraction, what are we looking at? We're looking at pay, we're looking at, satisfaction in the job, we're looking at, I don't know, opportunities to grow in the company. What are we looking at?
We actually look at everything. So we look at your reputation and image, we look at the culture in your organization, or the perception of your culture in your organization in this case. We also look at remuneration and advancement opportunities as well as the job characteristics. So we touch on just about everything that pertains to your employment.
I mean, were you surprised when you say you look at something like culture and reputation? Were you surprised to see somebody like Eskom, which has not received the best reputation in the media for all sorts of things that are going on in that company, being ranked the top employer in the engineering and technology sector?
Not so much, because this speaks to the value of having actually a very attractive employer brand, because there is quite a slight differentiation between your corporate brand and your employer brand. And you might get bad rep on your corporate brand, but if your employer brand is very strong and clearly articulated, that's where you will see your attractiveness as an employer remaining high or attractive, even though your reputation might be taking a knock in other areas.
And I suppose the same goes for the Department of Health as being one of the top places to work in the natural sciences sector. In fact, they've improved from last year.
Yes, and this actually speaks to why it's very important for organizations to be very clear in terms of what the employer-employee relationship pertains. And the minute that part is very clear, because remember, the stakes have changed. There's a time when employers held the most power, but now literally the balance has changed and both parties hold power. So it is a relationship that you work on from both angles. If talent is very aware of what you stand for as a business, what they will be doing should they join you, and what you have to offer, or the environment, or what it will be like to work for you, they will still want to work for you.
Winani, I can't help but notice to see that a lot of the high-ranking places where people or young professionals want to work are government or the public sector.
Yes.
Why?
Our socio-economic environment, unemployment is very high, so obviously government stands for security, government stands for stability. So talent is looking for that. It's part of the most important attributes that they're looking for out of employment. But other than that, they're also looking for development. And government has been very vocal about how they want to develop their people, how they want to change their departments or their state organizations in order to align with what is important and what's going on in the industry.
It sounds like you're saying that the private sector is falling short of attracting talent. I mean, should they be doing more?
It's not so much falling short, but the competition is getting stiffer. So where in the past people were like, yeah, but government is not motivating me enough, now government is coming up and actually pushing and saying, we don't want you to come and be a bum on the seat, but we actually want you to deliver. And the private sector has always been known to have those challenging environments, to have that environment that actually challenges you, that pushes you, and they will develop you. So now both parties are offering that, and the competition is becoming stiffer, and the private sector is not so much known to offer that security and stability that the government is known to offer.
But again, like I say, should the private sector be doing more? I mean, who doesn't want to go to a job whereby you do know that you're offered some form of security, and you do know that you're offered some form of stability? I mean, surely they should be.
Well, they should be to a certain extent, but also they should have to find themselves something that will differentiate themselves from government. What is it that they're doing better than government? That they need to communicate.
Okay, cool. I mean, let's also talk about some of the private sector employees that are ranked quite highly here. In terms of the law fraternity, Weber Wenzel attorneys, I mean, what made them stand out? I mean, there's a proliferation of law firms here in South Africa, Hogan, Lovells, Baker, McKenzie, the list goes on. What was so exceptional about Weber for young professionals?
It's just looking at what's important to talent. They're probably delivering on what's important to talent, and because of that, they are being ranked very high. It doesn't necessarily mean the others are not attractive, but they are more attractive than the other players.
Yes. And I mean, in the healthcare sciences, it looks like quite a stability or plateauing of attractiveness there. I mean, the results that we saw last year are pretty much the same results that we're seeing this year.
Yes, because it's got the major players. It's like if you were to look at the auditing and accounting industry, there's always the major players that will be there. Same applies for the healthcare space. There's the major players that will always be there. It's just a question of who's number one and who's number two and number three in that space.